So, Simon Kennedy Ellis.
Lee David Miller.
David Lee Roth. Let's just crack right on.
Oh.
You have got a topic.
Wow, really?
You wanted to talk? Yeah, you have, because you wanted to talk about something last time.
Wow. No preamble.
No preamble. I want to get there. I'm feeling this is 2023.
So many other things have happened, but okay.
Oh, have they?
Yeah. Maybe we'll save that.
Maybe that's the outro.
This is a podcast in which two friends talk about the pleasures, absurdities, and imperfections of being human. I'm Simon Ellis.
And I'm Lee Miller. Welcome to Midlifing.
We had some friends over last weekend for New Year's, and I stayed up midnight. Did I tell you that? I think we were talking about wokeness when midnight rolled over.
Were you confused? Did you think it was awokeness?
Yes, exactly. The Great Awakening. And one of my friends, I think it was in the next day, we were out for a walk, and asked me, had heard something, which was that our inner voices are different. And this is in a way you might say that's really obvious. Of course our inner voices are different. But she asked me, what's your inner voice? And I really enjoyed that question. And so I wanted to ask you, David Lee Roth, Lee David Miller, what's the sound of your inner voice?
I was having this conversation just before Christmas with my just turned 10-year-old friend.
The same conversation.
The exact same conversation about how we think. Because he asked me the question, do you think in words? And then, is everything language? I was not asking these questions at 10.
Yeah.
But then he's reading Plato. I was also not reading Plato at 10.
Is he reading an abridged kind of 10-year-old version, or he went straight to the symposium? There's some bad stuff in the symposium, right?
He's got somebody reading it with him.
Right.
So he's being held in a process, but wow.
Wow.
Okay. What does my inner voice sound like?
Wait. So how did you respond to him, though, first of all?
Oh, okay. I said because he was asking, he was using we. Do we think in words?
Human beings.
Exactly. So he was doing the universalized question of assuming that a response from me would be a response from humanity.
Well, that's actually, I think most of our listeners think that. A response from Lee is a response from humanity.
I am a tastemaker. I'm on Time Out's 2023 list of top 10 tastemakers.
Did you scrape in at number 10, or are you in the top 5?
No. I'm a solid 6. I'm fine with that.
There's no such thing as a solid 6.
Everything is a solid something if you put the word solid in front of it. What are you talking about?
So all
solid 82.
All thoughts are linguistic. That's a solid thought.
It's a solid thought. It depends how hard you had to push.
Don't blow a gasket.
I've got a T-shirt that says "Don't blow your squeaker."
Oh, Valsalva maneuver.
We got from Plato to poop really quickly.
You mean you and me, or you and your 10-year-old friend?
You and me. Me and the 10-year-old never got anywhere near it because we were sensible. Okay.
I don't know where we say we anyway.
Well, exactly. I said we don't think in anything. I said that thoughts are individual. And then I explained my process, that I had a very, very strong inner monologue, and that my thoughts are almost exclusively in language, and that if I want to think in images, I have to work. I have to sort of focus and imagine, which isn't quite the question about an inner voice, but he was asking about language.
But you said you have a strong inner, what'd you say, monologue?
Yeah.
How do you know
very,
it's
very loud.
strong? You mean compared with other people?
Yeah, I mean, I can only compare it to the other person who I spend most of my time with.
And so Bob
doesn't think in words.
She must.
And that's the problem that you make. You haven't spoken to enough people about their inner monologues, because not everybody thinks in words.
No, I know, but she must at some point. She must at times, right?
Yeah, but in the same way that I don't think in images, I have to conjure the image. Yeah? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If I close my eyes, it's just dark.
Yeah, you're still looking.
So you asked me what was going on, and then you're telling me what's going on for me, rather than letting me explain it to you. Which do you want? Do you want to tell me what's going on inside of my own head?
No, I
Do
wasn't.
you want me to try and find the words to explain it for you?
I wasn't saying when we close our eyes we don't stop looking. I wasn't saying. I was speaking for humanity then. Okay, sorry. You're right.
I'm trying to explain that when I close my eyes, I'm not overwhelmed by images. I have to work in order to make a picture come. So if you were to tell me to think of something, I have to go, okay, right, what have I seen that looks like that, and try to remember what that looks like. It doesn't pop immediately into my mental hopper. And Bob is the same with words. So she will close her eyes and start to see images, and she has to think in order to make the words come. It doesn't mean she doesn't think in words, it just means that's not her de facto response. So it's much quieter in her head than it is in mine. She never has arguments with herself. Ever. Which I find incredibly peaceful.
Wow. And so I said inner voice. And so do you think that Bob describes what she has as a voice?
She knows that she has language in there, but because Bob and I have had this conversation a lot, because about 15 years ago I went to see somebody about negative thoughts that I was having. Effectively, I was having a very strong physical response, like an anxiety response to an argument I was having with somebody who I hadn't met and I didn't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So when you ask about my inner voice, that's what it is. So
yeah.
it is constantly narrating.
Yeah.
It's very, very loud. The thoughts are not that's not true. The thoughts are not always intrusive. And I have physical strategies to exclude intrusive thoughts.
Under what conditions are they most intrusive, and under what conditions are they least intrusive? You might not want to share those things, but
no, it's okay. Yeah. They are most intrusive when I am. I'm going to say when I am relaxed. So if I am so if I'm doing a job. If I'm busy doing, if I'm hanging a bicycle on the wall, or if I'm filling in a report, or if I'm having a tutorial, or if I'm doing an interview, or if I'm having a conversation with you, my thoughts are, my inner voice is working towards that task.
Yeah. It's on program. It's on task.
It's on program, yeah. So, and this is whether I am, if I'm cooking, I don't go into it's like that whole mihai flow state. It is such a rare occurrence for me. Such a rare occurrence. So I asked my friend, because he's under 16, I'm not going to name him. I asked my friend, this is the 10-year-old, what was happening when he was on his bicycle? And he went, I'm just experiencing being on my bike. And I was like, oh, God, I wonder what that would be like. Because I'm having conversations, not necessarily intentional. And in contrast, Bob is not. Bob sits there. It's why Bob can sit for such long periods of time in silence. Was that not the response you were expecting?
No, I wasn't. I mean, it really was a genuine question, even though I tried to answer it on your behalf.
I got quite spicy then, didn't I?
Yeah,
because
you did. I feel
no. It's weird. It's one of the few things that I feel proprietorial over.
Well, your own thoughts.
My own thoughts. You know, sometimes people say, "Oh, you must have thought such and such a thing." Don't tell me what I must have thought, and that's possibly my very loud inner monologue.
I've been in a collaborative situation where the person started telling me what I was thinking, and I didn't like it at all. No, that's not what I'm thinking. You can tell me as much as you like what it is that you think I'm thinking, but and if I say you're wrong, what happens then? There is no oh no, but I'm right. I have so many things that I want to ask. And so when you said when you relax, so but what about when you're watching, if you're like relaxing by watching Andor or something like that?
I think that's probably why some television programs don't stick with me. Andor is one of them. Can't get into it because my brain is too loud. So I'm just like uninterested because it won't shut down, or rather my brain won't get on task with it. Football, but that's my brain can't get on task with it.
Can I just ask, is that different? I was going to tell you, I'm going to ask you, is that different, that it's like it won't, the TV show won't engage you? That's different from hanging up your bike or doing an activity in which you talked about Csikszentmihalyi's flow. They're different. Are those different things?
I don't really know about that. I just know that there are some things that I watch that will that my thoughts will talk to.
Yeah. I'm really, really interested in trying to understand the difference. This is maybe, which is that when you described that thing of being, busy at work or doing something with your hands, or I don't know, making bread or something, and is the quality or the tone of the monologue? I'm asked the same question. That's the second time I'm asking the question. So I'm just trying to get a sense of if there is a difference. There might not be.
You know that you can see your nose all the time.
Yeah, sure.
It's in your vision.
Yeah.
And yet the way that we process means that we sort of ignore our nose. My inner monologue is like my nose. It is always there, to the point that I don't think about it. I'm trying to shine a light on the experience of being with it in order to explain it in an attempt to answer your question. But I don't know the difference between hanging a bike or making bread or watching TV, because it's like asking me, what does your nose look like when you are making bread versus what does your nose look like when you are watching TV? Because it's just there.
Are there times when it's more pleasurable, though?
With the exception of when I had to go and talk to somebody about the intrusiveness of the thoughts, I rarely find my internal monologue unpleasant. I find it like my nose.
Yeah.
It does lots of useful things for me. At the moment, there's a spot on the side of it. Not my inner monologue, my nose.
That spot on my inner monologue is actually a blind spot. I have to hold a piece of paper and then and look at one side with one eye and then move it close until it disappears. Until it appears, I mean. Oh, got that wrong. I watched a film last night on Netflix called The Alpinist.
The Alpinist?
Yes, and
okay.
It's only available, I could only find it in the US, so I had to shove it on a VPN and look at American Netflix.
Virtual private network for anybody who isn't sure what a VPN is.
Yes, they've been a long time sponsor of Midlife, ExpressVPN. It's about an alpinist, would you imagine, called Marc-Andre Leclerc.
Can you explain what an alpinist is? Because I'm not even sure I know what that word is.
Someone who climbs mountains.
Oh, why are they not called a mountaineer?
It's just the name of the film. I don't know.
Okay.
It's a thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay, right.
But I think it might be.
I didn't know if that was like a really, really familiar term that somehow I just managed to.
No, it wasn't to me. But assume that there are alpine. You know, it's a certain level, meaning height.
Gotcha.
And his name is Marc-Andre Leclerc, and what he does is he goes into mountains and he, as they say, free solos. So he climbs by himself, completely alone, and without planning. And they use a particular term when someone approaches a mountain without ever having climbed on that mountain before. And he climbs in different conditions: ice, snow, rock. And so if he's climbing on mountains where he's climbing between ice and rock, he's holding on there whilst changing boots to put crampons on and then putting rock climbing shoes back on. So he's flipping between. And so so there's no safety. If he falls, right? Anyway, one of the things he said, and he was diagnosed as a young boy with ADHD. And one of the things he says is like the being on the mountain stops the chatter. And it occurred to me that it was like someone being, I'll say, fully conscious. That there was no possibility of internal monologue or an inner voice, other than just doing the thing. And it was really extraordinary hearing him talk about it. It was really, really amazing. And so and I don't know this. I'm extrapolating from what he said. There's something. It's partly I'm saying this because my inner voice is super judgy. Like, I'm judging myself and others a lot. And when I say super, do I know it's more than other people? I don't.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, maybe we're all doing that to a greater or lesser extent, except Bob, by the sounds of it. And so it was there's something that struck me about what his words, which were, it's like he was silenced he was exposed to the world, exposed to his own solitude in an acute way. You couldn't get a more extreme version of being by oneself and being dependent on oneself. But it sounded like bliss, the way he described it. It was pretty extraordinary. He died, by the way. He died. It was an avalanche. They've never recovered his body.
Okay.
It's not a spoiler in the sense that if you look at the trailer for it mentions this, yeah. 25.
Mm-hmm. You said fully conscious. What's the difference? Is there a difference between being fully conscious for you and being fully present?
No, I don't think there is a difference. I think
Okay.
the concept of being present is when we become aware of the things that are entering our consciousness. But what's different from normal is we don't engage with those things. It's much more like we just observe or notice them and then they pass. We're conscious as we are, including the inner voice. That's it's a part of consciousness. I don't. So it's not that I'm. It's not that I. So I think it was not right to say the way I said it. It's not quite what I meant, or not quite accurate. Yes, I think presence is probably being present. And and Cheek sent me high. I think that's certainly that kind of state. And of course, the only thing about Leclerc is that it was happening for him in extreme conditions. Yeah, he wasn't just, no offense, putting up his bike. Or, for me, baking bread, or whatever it is, that engages us.
So, if your inner voice, and I realise that we're using two different things here, because I talked about monologue and you talked about voice, which maybe tells you everything you need to know about my inner voice.
Well, certainly my original question was about inner voice, but I don't. But I don't. Maybe they're the same thing. But yeah.
I think so. I just think that mine is so chatty that it's.
People will be shocked, of course, listening to this. People will be shocked, absolutely shocked.
So I want to ask about the experience of being with judgment, because you talked about yours being. I think you used the words super judgy.
Super judgy. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's that? What's the experience of being with judgment for you?
Well, I can, a while back stumbled across some very old diaries. When I say very old, 40 years. So I was a teenager. And it's the things that were interesting me then. And also, in fact, some letters my father had written me as a teenager. When I was a teenager, not when he was a teenager, that were more or less about the same thing, this question you've just asked me. And so it's clear this has been a preoccupation of mine. You might say it's been the preoccupation of my life. And that is to seek out situations in which the judgment of oneself ceases. I'm choosing my words because I'm not. I've never really articulated it like that. But that's the sense I have. Can you ask me your question again? I've forgotten it.
Well, I was just asking what it was like to be with judgment, to sit. To sit in relationship to judgment, because you talked about it being your inner voice is super judgy, which is not the same as I am super judgy. I mean, it might fundamentally be the same. I'm not telling you it's not the same.
No, I think this is a great. I love that. I love the distinction for sure. No, I think the way I would respond is that occasionally, not always, occasionally it's very tiring. No, I'm not judging myself about that. It's okay, but yeah, occasionally I go, look, could you just back off a little bit? And you talk about this quite. When I hear the words "treat yourself with kindness," it has your voice. All right, like I associate those words with your voice.
That's. Okay, I thank you. I'm glad that my voice is.
It's loud, shouty, and I can't. No, it's
Treat
true.
yourself.
No, it has that kind of warm. Exactly the kind of voice that people know your voice to be listening to this podcast, and that I know from firsthand. But also, I've come to know it through the podcast through listening through these headphones. Very curious, very curious. But yes, so So the kind of sense of that's, oh man, wow, that's pretty hard on yourself, pretty hard, and we've touched on this before. And so there's no question that, and it's a shame in a way when I was watching the film, The Alpinist or The Alpinist, last night, I was thinking, wow, what lengths he went to in order to be quiet. And so it seems to me that because of the before the incredibly complex physical thing he's doing, and also the stakes being so high, that there is no room for anything else. If he was there going, oh my God, if I don't make this, I'm going to die. Oh my God, I'm really going to, no way, not possible. And certainly, the most the beautiful and I've definitely mentioned those stories about being of scuba diving when that inner voice kicks in. Wow, because you really have to silence it. You really have to silence it. I'm sorry, now's not the time for you. Go away.
Yeah. We made a decision to be here. So now you're just going to just look at the fish.
Wait till we get
and
up
have a nice time.
Exactly. No.
Fingers on lips, hands on heads. Now calm down. Up until the day before yesterday, I hadn't watched any television since Boxing Day.
Mm-mm.
Not a thing.
So you wasted all your holidays, basically.
I wasted all my holidays
not watching
hanging out with friends, hanging out with family, going out for dinner, going on walks, going on bike rides.
I rest my case, Your Honour.
Next witness. Totally.
You can't handle the truth.
The day before yesterday, me, my mum, my dad and Bob went for a 4-kilometre walk.
Is that a long walk?
Not for me and Bob, because I probably do that. I definitely, my average is about 6 miles a day.
Right.
Because
do you know that because dogs. Of your oh yes, of course.
Yeah. So we went for a 4-kilometre walk, which was lovely because it was at the pace of an 82-year-old. And it was just great. We had such a lovely time. It was really lovely. My mum set the pace. My dad doesn't walk like an 82-year-old. He walks, like a little rocket. Sometimes you just have to shout, go, Norman, stand still. What? Maybe like really far off in the distance.